I never knew how much I needed in my life to see Gary Oldman play a red-headed leprechaun before, but I really, really needed it. Interstate 60, released in 2002 and is directed by Bob Gale, who made his directorial debut with this film, but has also written and produced such films like I Wanna Hold Your Hand, Bordello of Blood, and the Back to the Future trilogy. And this film has a ginormous cameoing cast of James Marsden, Gary Oldman, Amy Smart, Christopher Lloyd, Chris Cooper, Michael J. Fox, Kurt frickin' Russell with a ponytail, and Margaret, Art Evans, and Amy Jo Johnson, which fulfilled all of my childhood fantasies as a kid who grew up watching Power Rangers. Watching her performance in this movie, And the reason why we're talking about Interstate 60 today is because it was a PayPal recommendation and donation from one of my supporters and subscribers on this channel, James Philbree. Thank you very much for the recommendation of this film, and I've never heard of this thing, which is strange because I grew up in the early 2000s. Of course, I wasn't really big into the film independent scene. Back then, it was all about big blockbusters for me. And I'm also glad that I wasn't an idiot and tried to Google where Interstate 60 was, because after watching this movie, as they state many times, Interstate 60 doesn't exist. James Marsden plays Neil Oliver, who is a college student who is aspiring to be a painter, but is being pressured by his father to become a lawyer. So he's having a quarter-life crisis and doesn't know what path to take. Thank God he crosses paths with O.W. Grant, played by Gary Oldman, who is a strange enigma of a character, going around granting everyone one wish. Grant takes it upon himself to take him down the winding imaginary road of Interstate 60, where Neil Oliver has many opportunities to find himself. Yeah, this movie is for everyone in their 20s who is having their quarter-life crisis, who they're probably going to be graduating from college or with their masters pretty soon, and they have no idea what they're going to do with their lives going forward. This is the perfect movie for you. Now you just gotta go out and find Gary Oldman and just make a wish in front of him and he'll grant it for you. I didn't look up the cast list. I didn't look up anything about this movie before watching it. It was free on Tubi, and I turn it on, and out of nowhere, here comes Gary Oldman, and I'm like, whoa! Son of a bitch! Academy Award winning actor Gary Oldman is like the driving force of this movie. He's been in all of these big blockbusters, the Dark Knight trilogy, and all that fun stuff, and here he is in this independent film, just riding his bicycle, smoking his pipe, and granting wishes. He has red hair, he's a frickin' giant leprechaun, and he's great. I love him in this movie, he's fantastic. Actually, this whole movie, surprisingly, is very enjoyable. Now, as this story unfolds, and we're going along this journey with Neil, I love seeing the development of this character and him realizing things, learning lessons, and it's actually one of the best performances I've seen from James Marsden, or at least performance that, actually connected with me. Typically, I don't connect with James Marsden at all in films. I'm sure I'll check out his performance in Sonic the Hedgehog later on this year, but typically he doesn't do it for me, but I was actually enjoying his journey. And as the journey is going along, I'm realizing more and more that this is more of an Alice in Wonderland real-life adaptation. James Marsden gets the call to go on this journey. He gets a task to go along and deliver this package to someone in Danvers. Yes, it's a made-up town called Danvers. And as he drives along this winding road of Interstate 60 that doesn't exist, he's picking up every single hitchhiker and character that he sees, which is not a smart thing to do, picking up every single person that you see on the side of the highway, but it does work out for him in this film because every single one of these people that he picks up teaches him a lesson about life, about the world, or a lesson about himself. He picks up a mother who's trying to find her kid who ran away and now is in this town that only hires like young teenagers, and to pay them, they pay them in drugs so they can get high, and the sheriff is Kurt Russell with a ponytail. Who frickin' knew? He picks up Chris Cooper, who is a former lawyer, who is a businessman, and he's tough shit, but he's also, like, good tough shit. He's an asshole, but he's a good asshole. And of course they pick up Amy Jo Johnson, who is just looking for, and I quote, the perfect fuck. Of course, the 7-year-old boy in me was just very, very happy. And also, apparently, Gary Oldman has the strangest genitalia, so there's that. I'm shocked at how much I enjoyed this film. I didn't think I was going to. The posters, the production value, the production stills that I saw just made this thing look very cheap, very backdoorish, very back alley-ish, and it's like, oh, someone had like 25 bucks and made this movie. But the story here is very universal. This is something that everyone can relate to. All of us go through a point in our lives where we're at a fork in the road and we have no idea what to do or what path to choose, and we feel stress, we feel depression, we feel anxiety, because if you go down one path, you may not be able to take the other path later on in life, so die if you do, die if you don't type thing. So it makes this character of Neil Oliver just very, very relatable. Of course, the ending here is very cheesy, it's a happy ending, it's a kind of a fist-pumping moment, actually, because he takes back everything and he kind of owns himself, which is very inspiring to see. I remember last week when I was talking about 10-Inch Hero and how that felt like a very poor executed after-school special. You just take out all the sex scenes and the nudity, and it's an after-school special. Here, this is a good after-school special. Like, if I was a high school teacher, I would be showing this to my students at one point in the year. It's just a fun movie that has great dialogue, a lot of philosophical dialogue, that makes you kind of sit back and go, huh, yeah, that's a good point. And the story just keeps driving itself forward, which is very fitting because we're on a fucking interstate. This is one of the biggest surprises that I've had this year so far in 2022. I was dreading going into this movie and I walked out very, very satisfied. Thank you very much, James Filbury, for the recommendation. I really enjoyed this movie. I'm gonna give Interstate 60 4 out of 5 Blu-rays.
I like it a lot.
Alright everyone, now because my favorite part of my video is where I pick which movie I'm going to be watching next, and the next one is another PayPal recommendation and donation from one of my longtime supporters and contributors on this channel, Autumn Blood. You recommended a movie called Finding Forrester, which is a title that I know I've heard about. I know I've heard about this movie. I have no idea what it is, though. I looked up the producers and everyone involved. Of course, there's Sean Connery, and it seems like everyone involved was related in some way, shape, or form to Good Will Hunting. The poster kind of gives me Good Will Hunting-ish vibes, and it's Sean Connery with a black student, and I'm thinking we're gonna have some racial tension, but in the end, we're gonna have a nice little father-son relationship. So I'm looking forward to it. So guys, if you've seen Interstate 60, what did you think about it? Or if you've never seen it before and you stumbled across it because of this video, then comment below, let me know what you thought about it. And as always, if you like what you see here, if you like my take on movies, then hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that bell. See you on the next time I release my next movie review. So guys, I will see you next time with my review of Finding Forrester. So in the meantime, be well, be good to each other, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.